What if I told you there's a place where food never dies? A place where harvest season never truly ends, where summer's abundance doesn't fade with the first frost, where the work of your hands becomes something eternal. And it's hiding in plain sight, disguised as a simple barn. You've probably driven past one. Maybe you've even wondered what goes on behind those metal walls. Maybe you thought it was just storage, just another outbuilding on another piece of farmland. But you'd be wrong, because some people, they've figured out something the rest of us forgot. They've cracked a code that our grandparents knew by heart, but we let slip away in the rush toward convenience stores and same-day delivery. They've built sanctuaries, not for worship, but for preservation. Not just of food, but of something deeper. Something we're all quietly, desperately craving in a world that feels more fragile every single day. Inside these structures, time works differently. August doesn't have to end in September. The tomatoes you grew in July, they'll taste just as bright in January. The beef, the berries, the beans, nothing has to disappear. Nothing has to be lost. And here's what makes it even more extraordinary. These aren't industrial facilities run by corporations. These aren't factories. These are homes. Living spaces where families sleep upstairs and preserve their future downstairs. Where the kitchen flows into the canning room. Where the freezer isn't in the garage. It's part of the architecture. Part of the plan. Part of a life designed around one radical idea. What if we stopped depending on a system that could fail us and built our own instead? Don't forget to hit that subscribe button because it's a simple way to show your love for these incredible designs. There's this feeling. You know the one. You're standing in the grocery store, holding a tomato that traveled 2,000 miles to get to your hand. It's perfect on the outside. Flawless. But you already know it's going to taste like nothing. Like water and disappointment. And something inside you just aches. Because you remember what a real tomato tastes like. Or maybe you don't remember, and that's even worse. Maybe you just know, somewhere deep in your bones, that food isn't supposed to be like this. Disconnected, anonymous, wrapped in plastic and stripped of story. You're tired of the waste. Throwing away wilted greens, forgotten leftovers, produce that turned before you could use it. You're tired of uncertainty, wondering if the supply chain will hold, if the shelves will stay stocked, if the prices will climb higher next month. You're tired of being dependent, and then you start to dream. Imagine this. You wake up in your own home. You make coffee, and when you need something from storage, you don't drive anywhere. You don't wonder if the store will have it. You just walk. From your kitchen, through a doorway, into your processing room. Past shelves lined with jars that glow like amber and ruby in the light. Into your cold storage, where everything you grew, everything you raised, everything you put up during harvest, it's all there. Waiting. Preserved. Yours. No middleman. No supply chain. No wondering. Just you, your family, and the food you chose to keep safe. This isn't about being a prepper. It's not about fear. It's about control. Independence. Legacy. It's about building a life where you decide what lasts. We share new content regularly to help you create spaces you love, so don't forget to subscribe. But let's talk about why this matters. Why now? Because something shifted in recent years, didn't it? We all felt it. Empty shelves where there shouldn't be empty shelves. Prices that doubled overnight. Supply chains that we never even thought about, suddenly becoming the only thing we could think about. We watched the systems we took for granted start to crack. Just a little. Just enough to make us wonder. What if? And here's the thing. Our grandparents wouldn't have been surprised. They knew. They always knew that depending on something outside your control was a gamble. That's why they canned. That's why they preserved. That's why basements used to be lined with rows and rows of jars, glowing in the dark like little insurance policies. She watched her grandmother's canned peaches gather dust in the basement for years. Thought it was old-fashioned, unnecessary, a relic of harder times that we'd evolved past, not knowing that instinct was prophecy. Because this isn't about convenience anymore. It's not about whether you prefer homegrown food or store-bought. It's about whether you have a choice at all when things get uncertain. And they do get uncertain. We've seen it now. We know. Food insecurity isn't something that happens to other people in other places anymore. It's knocking on suburban doors. It's showing up in middle-class kitchens. It's the quiet anxiety that keeps you up at night wondering if you're doing enough to protect the people you love. The stakes are real now. And the question isn't, is this extreme? The question is, what am I willing to do to make sure my family never goes without? Because the world is showing us, over and over, we can't always count on someone else to have the answer. Maybe it's time we became the answer. If you found this video inspiring, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Your support means to me, and it helps keep the design ideas coming your way. So what is this place? What are we actually talking about? It's called a food processing barndominium. And it's not just a building. It's an ecosystem. A living, breathing answer to everything we've been talking about. Picture it like this. The living quarters, that's the heart. That's where you wake up, where your family gathers, where life happens. It's home. Warm. Familiar. Real. But connected to that heart is the brain. A commercial-grade kitchen. Not just bigger than a regular kitchen. Smarter. Built for volume. For intention. For turning abundance into security. Stainless steel surfaces that catch the light. Space to work. Space to think. Space to create. And flowing from there, the hands. Processing rooms where the real work happens. You can almost smell it, can't you? The rich, sweet acid scent of tomatoes being broken down into sauce. Bushels of them. The kind of smell that clings to your clothes and your hair and makes you feel alive because you're doing something that matters. Listen, you can hear it. The rhythmic hiss and click of pressure canners. That sound used to fill every farmhouse in America. It's the sound of time being captured, sealed, saved. The cold storage and freezers, that's the memory. Walk-in spaces where you can stand surrounded by everything you've put away. Frozen berries, butchered meat, stocks and broths. It's not just food. It's months of security stacked neatly on shelves. And the canning station, that's the soul of the whole operation. Rows of jars waiting to be filled. Lids and rings organized. Steam rising. This is where transformation happens. Where perishable becomes permanent. When you're standing there, lid tightening in your hand, jar still warm from the water bath, you feel it. Self-reliance isn't a concept anymore. It's a rhythm, a practice, a truth you can hold. If you love this type of look, hit that subscribe button to help us create more videos. But here's where it gets interesting. You can't just build this anywhere. You can't just throw up some walls and call it done. This is a puzzle. And every piece has to fit perfectly or the whole thing falls apart. First, zone separation. It sounds clinical, but it's actually sacred. You need clean zones and dirty zones. Raw and processed. It's not about being paranoid. It's about respect. Respect for the food. Respect for the work. Cleanliness becomes ritual. A boundary between chaos and preservation. Then there's the workflow. The dance. Because that's what it is, a choreography. You need to think 3 moves ahead. Where does the produce come in? Where does it get washed? Where does it move for processing? How does it flow to canning or freezing without backtracking, without contamination, without wasted steps? It's like planning a heist. Every movement matters. Every door placement. Every counter height. The rhythm of the space has to match the rhythm of the work, or you'll burn out before the first harvest is put away. And the equipment, this is where it gets real. These aren't just tools. They're extensions of your will. Industrial sinks deep enough to handle bushel baskets. Pressure canners that can process multiple batches at once. Vacuum sealers. Blast freezers. Dehydrators. Each one chosen deliberately. Each one integrated into the design like instruments in an orchestra. But here's the catch. The final piece of the puzzle. USDA requirements. If you ever want to sell anything you make, If you want this to be more than just personal use, you have to play by the rules. And the rules are specific. Floor drains, wall finishes, ventilation, separate hand washing stations, inspector access. It's not a deal breaker. It's just the game. And once you know the rules, you can build something that doesn't just work for you. You can build something unstoppable. Now let's get real for a second, because I'm not going to stand here and pretend this is easy. It's not. This isn't a fantasy. It's a choice. And like all meaningful choices, it asks something of you. Let's start with money. A food processing barndominium isn't cheap. We're talking significant investment. 50,000, 100,000, maybe more, depending on scale and equipment. Those numbers are real, and you need to look at them clear-eyed. But here's what else is real. It's not an expense. It's infrastructure. It's equity. It's an asset that increases the value of your property and your life in ways a new car or a vacation never could. This is money that works for you every single season for decades. And the labor? Yes, it's work. Real, physical, exhausting work during harvest season.